Hello, 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 everyone. How is everyone doing on this wonderful, wonderful Friday? Hope everyone had a great week. OPEX day, government shutdown continues. Little freak out in the markets overnight before the European session opened. But you gotta still buy the dip and let her rip. That's what everybody keeps saying. But we have a very important low area now to watch for. Again, OPEX day. This is the day my hedges normally expire every year. I'm going to be looking to consider doing more stuff through the ruling on the tariffs coming up the first week of November. So, and just because we have volatility now, not necessarily today or anything else, because of the increased volatility, although this volatility spike was nice to recoup some of the hedge because of the volatility spike. Again, I like to put on these hedges, especially with volatility, at least pulls back. So, good morning, Sterling. Thank you for putting in all the earnings. Again, Ali was a beat. I'm not going to go over all of these. AXP, American Express, was a beat. Those were the two ones I was looking at. Good morning, Heinrich. Hey, Mark. Happy Friday. Well, thank you for being with us all week, Mark. I'm glad you got a chance to be with us live. What else? Good morning, Anissa. How are you doing? Hey, Patrick. Happy Friday. Didn't see you over on Rumble, Patrick. What's going on? What's going on? Good morning, Jake. OD Green. Good morning to you. Good morning, John. The trend is your friend until it ends. And you know, it ends once. It's your trend. It's your friend until then. Good morning. Now we are getting potentially to a round, so far around a topping pattern, and we have that potential doubles, but we are not. We have not ended it yet. Bond market shows tail risks are rising. Yes, well, you can see the risk rising just in the volatility. Good morning, Ted. Okay. Uh huh. And what's happened to Deutsche Bank in the past? Oh boy. Oh boy. That means they're all right. Time to short Deutsche Bank. Can you check uranium later? Can you already identify levels to re-enter longs? We can take a look at that. Allies, yes, they are a lot of car loans. Uh, Traveling minimal screens this week. Chicago bound this weekend. Are you going to be staying in Chicago or just passing through Chicago? All right. All right. I did order my Pequod's pizza the other day, so that will be delivered. Uh, that will be delivered. So again, my wife's still in Chicago, so it's just me in Arizona, still by myself. Again today, yay, we got more Fed speak, Mussolini speaking. We got the rig counts again. Government shutdown. Not much going on. Not much going on. Remember, next Friday, we do have the CPI numbers coming out. They are going to release those. S&P 500, not as bad. Oracle dropping after its little bounce up. Lilly pulling back. Banks stronger today. At least the major banks are stronger today. Consumer defensive is stronger with the dirt cheap Costco. Oil's interesting. Oil selling down to major support. Going to be looking for potential percent B buy going into next week, not today. Groups. Let's just do a quick little energy still leading in consumer defensive. Basic materials, healthcare, and technology all lagging. We have rate cut 99% cut. So 3 cuts now through including January. We're finally in extreme fear mode. Extreme fear mode. Schiller, I mean, we're in extreme fear mode without even a major pullback. Very fragile. But again, I've been looking at a lot of stocks. A lot of stocks behind the scenes are starting to break down. Schiller PE 39.56. We already covered the earnings. What was could you put in CSX from yesterday, Sterling, if you have a chance? If you have a chance, if you're tied up, don't worry about it. Again, so that's where that sits. Just going and looking ahead. Where is it? Looking ahead for next week. Next week, again, we have like things like Netflix, Coca-Cola, Tesla, IBM, Intel, American Airlines. So you got Tesla's probably the biggest one, but then you got a lot of people still look at Netflix. And then the week after is the major one. So, all right. We sold off with also regional bank deterioration fears with the loan book coming back down, spiking below the 50 and bouncing. If we lose this 50 on a closing basis and then trigger the potential double top, we went over why that was. We could start seeing the bigger pullback into the weekly rotation zone. Is it over for me yet? Then, well, warning sign is if we close on a weekly basis below the weekly rotation zone, I'll still then focus on the secondary bounce, but I will be more focused on a rounding rollover pattern unless we form like something like a weekly double top. Today, again, OPEX. Very cautious on OPEX days. We got the little run up yesterday morning before the momentum sell off. Right now, and by the way, we came back down to the 50% harmonic from the lows on the 2nd, so essentially the beginning of September, up to the highs on the 8th of October, bouncing pretty strongly and retesting the spike lows from last Tuesday. Now, the key support I'm looking at is 66.51, 66.50, then 66.30. If we break down that, my key level is just 65.90 to 6600. Again, very cautious today with OPEX. Patrick is staying in Chicago. I'm the age when folks know I pass on, attending funeral mass at St. Barnabas Parish. All right. All right, there we go. Well, you have a nice time and stay safe and Patrick, stay safe in Chicago. CSX was a beat. Market didn't drop much for already being in extreme fear. Again, it's triggered an extreme fear very quickly. I mean, look at this. Look at this on a weekly basis. This is extreme fear. Oh, we had one down weekend. This week isn't even down yet. This is extreme fear. I hate to see if we start doing this. Is that suicidal antidepressants then? What is that? Oh boy. And it's already bounced back, triggering, by the way, a 4-hour %B buy. It looks like it's going to follow through. Again, when I see these moves down like this, I watch for those 4-hour %B buys, which means I focus on the high. So it was just above the 66.29 area. The high was 66.34. We broke above it. Does that mean I hold it all day? No. But their key levels also on a bounce are 66.85, then 6,700. NASDAQ, also a little 4-hour %B buy out of oversold conditions. Already back to the first key area of resistance for me, 24,754. We start getting into this clear path and sustain above 24,754. I'm focused at about 24.9 and then 25, again, 25.13 with 25K. If we can't sustain 24,755, then I'm looking for the pullback. Key support is about 24,542 area, and then major support 24,400 to 24,412. Again, OPEX day, and nothing's out of touch with the double. Now, if we rotate all the way back up and take out the highs from yesterday, this double is off the table in the S&P and NASDAQ. You actually have to take out nearly the highs from Wednesday. Dow, sound like a broken record. Again, percent B buy on a 4-hour basis only. Key target is about 46,400 if it continues. Support level is not back to 45,911. The Russell, we had that little 4-hour double top triggering yesterday, following through. Even if you use the aggressive targets because of the momentum, it came back down and then it hit the key support level. This 24.35 area bouncing, just triggering a percent B buy. But again, these percent B buys needed to follow through for the next 45 minutes. The ones I listed, if they do not, if we have a key sell-off into the open, then there's a no hold, especially if they drop back below these highs. Okay? And again, this is not a long-term move position. This is a bounce position. 2502. If the rally continues, 2500 is the key resistance. Key support is 2435. What do we got going on here? Remember the post I sent you from X where the guy was suicidal last Friday because Spider dropped 2.7%, which cost them everything? People are nuts with this stuff. Well, they're using so much leverage. People are using so much leverage and it's ingrained. I mean, retail is just buying. That's why this ingrained dip buying and it all transferring to retail right now. Retail is still super strong. And why people get wiped out is they'll buy the dip, that dip will get taken out. And a lot of people aren't blown up on the first dip takeout, but then they buy the dip again. It was sometimes with even more leverage. And then that dip gets taken out. And then it starts getting into trouble world. Remember also, people try to win. Let's say they take a loss. People try to win it. I'm using that term specifically. Win it back all in one go. People don't like to accept losses. By the way, minor is against minor resistance at 2470 right now. That's from this prior breakdown area. So they leverage themselves to make it back all in one go. And if that one go doesn't go, uh-oh. Good morning, David. I already talked about P-Quads. I did order the P-Quads. Personal from Sterling. His sister is trading, and he's having a devil of a time getting her to understand the concept of taking profits. That's why you come up with the targets. People wonder why I use the harmonic extensions, because I already know where I'm taking action. That it's either taking profits or raising a stop. And remember, raising a trailing stop is a form of eventually taking profits because you're raising the stop. And if that stop gets hit, you're trying to lock in profits. So raising a stop, once it's profitable, is locking in profits as long as you stick to the stop. All right, now we don't want to get in the habit of taking profits too soon and letting losers run, because that's another recipe for disaster. But knowing where you're going to take an action before you get caught up in the market, before you get caught up, is very beneficial. VIX, spike up, reversing. Again, gonna really watch over the next couple days at this 22 level. We got the rising rotation zone, really 2150 to 22. The DAX breaking down now, breaking these triple low area. Again, this might now be into sell any bounces in the DAX. The double in the 10-year futures, 10-year yield futures, 10-year T-note futures hit the full double pattern yesterday. Then spiking up today and reversing. I'm going to be watching where it closes again. Not any fantastic shorts besides a minor divergence pattern there. The yields spiking down now below key resistance. I might be looking at this percent B buy going into next week if it holds for a scalpy move. I think the yield, they're pricing in more of a slowdown, but they're discounting a lot of stuff going on right now. Crude breaking down into a very, very key support. We'll be watching potentially for another percent B buy. Again, crude to the downside and the upside is both scalpy only. If you're looking for larger plays just yet, this is not the market. We'll be looking for a potential percent B buy setup with cycles at the bottom and oversold against the key major support level for a bounce play only next week, not today. Same thing for natty gas, filled the roll gap. Gold, which has gone parabolic. I mean, look, it opened the week just above 4,000 and it traded up. What was the high? To 43.92, nearly 10% in a week for gold. Look, this is the kind of this I like to see from a breakout perspective, not to finish a move. All right. So in gold, watch to see if we close at some point below over the next week. If we get a key reversal close below this week's low, or over the next couple weeks. I'm still going to be watching for a shorter term topping pattern. That does not mean we short gold. We do not short gold right now. The secondary bounce might be shortable. Silver, again, spiking up and looking like it's trying to reverse. Going to be watching to see if this can hold the daily rotation zone back closer to 50. Copper, nothing yet. Copper's really running out of steam in here. And copper could be pricing in the slowdown too at this point. Dollar index completing the double. Going to be looking with cycles at the bottom. Remember we had a substantial run. A substantial dollar run from these lows back in the middle of September. Closing above the rotation zone on the weekly basis last week. Pulling back. Now potentially setting up with a buy pattern going in next week. I will be more patient if the dollar reverses and closes back below the 50 today. Euro, we got the bounce finishing the double bottom pattern and setting up for a potential percent B sell today. It's going to be interesting to know where that closes. Spiders. Again, I'm just focused on the futures today, but 660.75 area. And then major is about 665. Major resistance. Key support is coming in at 657. 657.15 area. Yes, the double is still in play. Qs, gap down. First key level I'm looking for on a rally, if it does sustain, is 599.99. So 600. Very key support area at 59, just above 595, 595.35, 595.50. Gonna gap down at 598 this morning. Christoph wanted uranium. Again, remember, I hope people have taken advantage. It took a while, but remember what I've talked about. Remember what I talked about after we got above this key resistance area. You could really see uranium running. Now, uranium, look at this on a monthly. Very overbought. Would I be surprised? Uranium can be volatile. This, on a personal level, 53 is a short-term stop level. You put it where you want, just let you know. I would be, unless you're a very aggressive trader and willing to take a quick stop on this, you can look for, if you're willing to keep a quick stop on this, you can look closer to this 52 level on a pullback. Personally, I'd be watching closer to the 50 level, 50 to 50, 50, 50, 75 for a pullback with the rising weekly. And I'd be looking for a possible pullback and then a percent B buy move back up. This is highly overextended. Highly overextended. All right. So I would rather have it reconnect with the week or close to the weekly rotation zone with the 8 rising, and then I'd be looking for a daily buy setup. Does that make sense, Christoph? That's exactly what I would be looking for. Okay. And a weekly percent B buy is even better. Like, see, this was more of a sideways correction, but pulled into the weekly rotation zone, setting up a weekly percent B buy and triggering, and then launch mode. And there hasn't been a weekly percent B buy since that. You sometimes have to be patient. Now, if you're more aggressive, I'd watch the daily rotation zone. But if this pulls back bigger, I'd be stopping and re-entering. I believe, yes, margin debt is at record. And here, yes, it is on. Yes, it's at record highs. But then people say, well, based off of inflation, it's not at record. It's still at record friggin' highs. Does that mean it just means also retail is leveraged to the hilt? And it's in a gambling method. You have people in their 70s and 80s, and I know this from firsthand knowledge, way over levered, all in stocks. In your 70s and 80s, all in stocks. Woof. Okay. You do you. With leverage, too. Remember, leverage works both ways. So with this Pequod's pizza, is it cooked and then frozen? You only have to rewarm it? Yes. Yes, it is cooked and frozen. I mean, I used to go there when I lived in Chicago, well, in the suburbs. I used to go there and get it fresh. I really like Pequod's pizza. Look it up if you're curious. It's sort of a niche one. I used to go to one to carry out for Morton Grove because I lived in the Winnetka area. So that was about a 20-minute drive for me. But I get it fresh in Chicago. Now I have to get it frozen and shipped. Although Gold Belly, again, had our 30% off sale. So I ordered 4 of them, 4 Pequods. I need help with letting positions become runners, like double bottom that hits all the targets and keeps going. All right. What do I look for? I've gone through this, especially with double patterns. What do I look for? I'm just going to use this. There is not a double top here. Yeah, there technically is. I misspoke. There's technically a minor. Let's just use this as an example. There is a double top here. Let's use this as an example. And I'm not saying short uranium. Well, how would I use this if you're doing aggressive pullbacks? Remember I said the 51, look at that, right into there. So if you're doing aggressive, now how would I, let's say this kept doing the bigger pullback. And I'm not saying short this, I'm using this as an example. So please, 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 please do not short uranium. What would I be looking for? I mean, you can if you're super aggressive, but then you have to manage it really tight. What would I be looking for? Here. If we close below the 62.5 because we could come down here, hit the full targets, and then bounce and not close below. Then this isn't the best example because the rotation zone is in the way. But if we closed below the 62.5 and the rotation zone, so let's say we spike down, close below 62 and the rotation zone, would I start looking for the bigger pullback? Yes. Okay, then I would keep something on, or on any bounce, look to re-enter a position for a rollover play. Why? Because it shifts the probabilities that we could see the even bigger pullback. So it's reverse for any bullish thing. Oh, look, if it extends, do we have any? And I can't use a 10-year. I'm thinking if there's any other bullish plays. I'll look to see where that 62.5 is on the bounce play from the pullbacks. And then if we close above it, I can either look to re-enter aggressively on pullbacks or keep something on and extend it. All right? That's exactly so. If uranium, look at that gap down. Wow. Uranium closed here. Now, again, I'm not, no short, no shorty short for me at least. I don't care. I'm not trying to capture every move. I'm now watching for the bigger pullback. But again, look at this. See, this is how you look, even if you don't intraday trade. Let's just say you're looking at this. Look, all right, we got the pullback. That takes us to the daily rotation zone. But let's say we close below that daily rotation zone and that 62.5. Where does that take us? Huh. Look where that 87.5 is. Closer there. So I spoke earlier about 50. I might even, if we spike down and retouch the rotation zone and retouch the 87.5, now I'm looking for that shorter term, that daily potential percent B buy set up for the secondary bounce. At least. Those are the exact rules I use, Jake. Okay? Exact rules I use. Does that help you out? Please let me know, Jake. Trading becomes tough in life too. You know how trading becomes easier is when you do things consistently and take your losses and trail your winners. But you have to be consistent. I don't think anybody on this channel who's watched it for a long time can say I'm not consistent with the analysis and the setups I talk about. If anybody would like to disagree on the consistency level, please tell me. I do take B3. I do take that. And I do take that. And I wear a hat too, Rick. And I don't get overexposed in the sun. I do that, Rick. Thank you for that advice. So, and then Sterling gave the way he does it. Again, you can make it your own. I'm telling you what I do. Sterling tells you what he's doing. All right. See, Bitcoin, the potential double. See, it spiked through that. This is the 25% level, by the way. That is spiked through, so there's no potential double. And Bitcoin, this should also be giving you a warning. So why also Bitcoin breaking down. Going to be interesting to see where it closes today. Breaking on down. Also could be a close below the weekly rotation zone. Going to be watching for this $100,000 level where the 50 is. You are welcome, Jake. I actually wonder if it trades down here. This could be a very sloppy head and shoulders top. Ethereum, also not your major support. Look at right at the bottom of the rotation zone, but breaking below a key support level. Going to really be paying attention to this where it closes today. So that's about it. I didn't see any other stock requests unless I missed them. Again, OPEX today. So Tesla's, there's just not anything great going in there. By the way, Broadcom, even with the spike up yesterday, did not invalidate the potential double, the little mini potential double. If it gets above 364.31, it's off the table. It has not triggered yet. We've just returned to the daily rotation zone, but not crypto. AI is really, really starting to. It's like an amateur marathon runner who is on the last legs and really starting to just. They got a couple of miles to go in the marathon and they're starting to really lose it. Rick turned 73. Hey, happy later this month birthday, Rick. Close to Halloween, huh? You have a great weekend too. You're welcome, Anissa. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. I shall hopefully be back on Monday. Hopefully. Again, stuff could be if I have to miss stuff again, still dealing with the hospice issue, and it's at the very end now. So if live streams have to be canceled, look at the X feed at MG Arnold for if there's going to be any cancellations. No, Sterling, if you've made it your own and it works, share it. You don't have to defer to me. Everybody can make it your own. Trading options has really helped reinforce the need to take profits often and early. You are welcome, Sterling. Again, everyone have a wonderful fall weekend approaching Halloween. And I shall see you all next week. Regarding my aforementioned pizza order, you did not ask me for my address in Maryland. Well, all right, you'll just have to email that to me, Rick. And if I send you pizza, you got to send me some Maryland crab cakes because I love me a good Maryland crab cake. All right, with that, I got to run. I'll talk to you all later. Bye for now. Oops.